Most shotguns are meant for one discipline. Trap guns are meant to shoot trap, skeet guns shoot skeet, and, well, sporting clay guns shoot sporting clays. But does it have to be like that? Today we're going to take a detailed look at this Krieghoff K-80 Pro Sporter model, which might just be the most versatile shotgun that you can own. The K-80 platform has been around since the 80s, and it has had some refinements over the years, but overall it has maintained a high level of consistency and competition use. When people talk about what might be a forever gun for them, that conversation almost always includes a K-80. These guns are built to withstand extremely high round counts and maintain a high level of consistency and be completely trustworthy. Now, guns that feature the K-80 action start just around 15K US, and after that, depending on the model and options you equip it with, and depending on what wood or engraving choices you go with, the sky really is the limit as far as what you can do to these guns. Now, one of the standout features of this gun is the rib. It is a tapered rib from 10 millimeters down to 6 at the front, and obviously it is a raised profile. Now, the neat thing about it is it's adjustable. So you can adjust your point of impact from a 50-50 all the way up to a 70-30 split. Now, what that means is a 50-50 is basically 50% of the pattern is beneath the bead, 50% is above. And if we go all the way up to a 70-30, it's 70% of the pattern is above the bead, 30% is below. And that is a big difference, but because most trap guns, they like shooting more of a 70-30. It just sort of gives them a little bit more of an edge and they can see the bird a bit better. Or if you're shooting clays or skeet, you might want more of a 50-50 split, or like I said, anywhere in between on that setup, depending on what you like. I do really like the way the rib is designed, with the different directions of taper here on the outside versus the tram lines down the middle. It does really give you a sense of which way the gun is pointing. I didn't play and adjust it on this gun because it's not my gun, but I do really like the idea of being able to adjust it and play with it because, how do you know what you like unless you try different things? So this gun obviously enables you to do that, to find what setup is right for you. Moving down to the muzzle, this gun is equipped with Krieghoff's titanium extended chokes, which are pretty awesome. And I mean, you can tell by turning them, the machining is very, very high quality on them. And I also like the fact that you don't need a tool to get them in and out. They spin in and out quite easily, and the knurling on them gives you lots of grip, but it's not sharp at the same time. And also because they're not ported, they don't collect a lot of extra debris. I don't know how many of you guys have shot ported chokes, but I'm not a huge fan solely for the fact is they are always spewing debris over the end of your gun and can make a little more of a mess than what they maybe should. Now let's just take this gun apart real quick because I think one of the most unique things about a K-80, and I'm sure you guys will agree, is the way the barrels are shaped or the way that they're set up, and the fact that there is absolutely no mid-rib in these barrels. Now, I really like the look. I think it's a pretty cool setup, and obviously they're very identifiable when you see them. It lends itself to a very sleek and light look, but you'd actually be wrong in assuming that these barrels are lighter than what they would be if they had a mid-rib, because in order to maintain the same level of rigidity, they have to bulk up the tube diameter a little bit. So they're actually a little bit heavier than what they would be if they had a mid-rib in them, but that's for a very specific reason. So what that enables them to do in this is you can tune the relation between the top barrel and the bottom barrel by this. There's this little hanger here at the bottom that you can push the pin out. You can get different hangers and it basically adjusts the point of impact of the bottom barrel in relation to the top barrel, which again is something of value depending on what discipline you are wanting to use the gun for or how you want it to shoot. The forend on this gun is I would say pretty thick, but I quite like it because I think it lends itself well to the way this whole gun sort of feels. Now, one of the most unique design factors is the fact that the forend houses the spring sears and hammers for the ejection system instead of it being part of the monoblock on this gun. Now, that makes the monoblock and the barrels a little bit slimmer and more sleek, specifically at the back, but it also allows for a much more, now I'm going to say this word a lot, robust ejection system. Each ejector has two springs. The hammers are quite large. The sears are quite large. It's a pretty impressive bit of kit, but it really gives you the sense that this is meant to put in some reps. There's also, looking at how to remove it and service it, it doesn't look like it's that difficult. There's basically 2 screws, and this whole thing comes out, and then you just need a punch and a couple little things, and you can quickly change springs if you needed to. But again, the way this is built, I don't think you're going to have to do that very often. All right, now moving back to the action, we have something else that is unique to Krieghoff, and that's that long, slender, rectangular design, which I think really contributes to the way that this gun swings. Obviously, the action's pretty elongated. The fact that the ejection system is in the forend, not on the monoblock, it just moves all the weight from that action outward. This gun really feels like the front of the gun weighs the same as the back of the gun, if that makes any sense. It's got a very even weight distribution. Would be the way I would describe it, but obviously that action I think really contributes to that. It is famously reliable, like I said, and the lockup system on top, which is this black piece, is what actually slides back and forth to lock the barrels in place, which I think contributes to a very vault-like lockup system. Just feels very secure, and it has a very identifiable sort of a whump to it when you close it. The safety, you actuate here with this little button at the back and slide it forward and back. Very refined, delicate, but also just like well made, is the first word that comes to mind. The barrel selectors on this one are in front of the trigger, not on the back, kind of like you'd expect here. Obviously, just the way that design, my eyes and mind immediately thought, oh, the barrel selector must be there, but it's not. It's in front of the trigger, just like my Blaser actually, which makes me think maybe it's a German thing that they do that. But anyway, I actually prefer it there than on the back. Reason being is on my 694, I had a little bit of an issue occasionally where I would brush up against the barrel selector and it would move from the bottom barrel to the top barrel. Not the end of the world, but I'm picky like that, and I want the bottom one to go off first all the time unless I say so. So that was one thing I didn't like about the 694, but obviously the location on this gun, with it in front of the trigger like that, makes sure that you're not going to actually brush up against it, and it has a fairly defined movement to it. It's not something that I think is just going to move very easily, but if it does, they do design it that if you're putting your hand in and you were to just push on it, it automatically goes to the bottom barrel first as the default. So I like it that way because I'll be honest with you, on my Blaser, I check that pretty regularly. I put my hand on it, and it's sort of a little pre-shot routine that I have. So I like the barrel selector where it is. Now this K-80 has one of Krieghoff's more basic engraved patterns finished in nickel, which is nice. It's clean, it's elegant. You can spend anywhere from a couple $100 all the way up to endless amounts of money on engraving, so it's nice that this one does have some engraving, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make you a better shot. But I do think it adds a little bit to the experience, because who doesn't like admiring a nice, pretty gun in between shots? Now the final part of the action, of course, is the trigger, which is adjustable on this one. There's 2 little set screws there in the bottom that you can move the trigger forward or back depending on the shape of your hand. For me, I would move it forward a little bit, just because if you see here, if I put my hand through the trigger, it has got quite a bit of wrap around, but it still feels really good. That's one thing I appreciate, is the shape of the trigger on this gun feels very nice in the hand. It's got a very nice contour to it that just is very comfortable. There is no free play or slop in the trigger whatsoever. Basically, as it sits there, it is sitting up against the wall. So you begin to pull it, it takes about 4 pounds to break, but it does break immediately. There's not a lot of messing around with that, and I do like that. It's very responsive. There's a little bit of a hitch when you let the trigger back out, if you let it out really slowly, but I do like a mechanical trigger. If I had a preference between a mechanical and an inertia, I would go with the mechanical, because it is always guaranteed to go bang on the second trigger pull, where inertia obviously relies on some energy to reset the trigger. It's just a personal preference of mine. Now, one other cool thing with Krieghoff's K-80s is you can actually get a release trigger for them, which is exactly as it sounds. It's a trigger that fires when you release it, not when you pull it. You're less likely to flinch when you release something than if you were to pull it. So for people that have issues with flinching, that is an option that is supposed to help with that. I've never shot one, but I think it's definitely a cool option, or something that would be neat to try, because I do flinch occasionally, so it'd be interesting to know if that was something that would actually help. All right, now moving back to the stock, it does have a pretty narrow neck, which I do like. My F16 is the same way, and I found that a narrow neck on a shotgun is something that I quite like. It does have a pretty equal palm swell on both sides, looking at it, which it feels good in the hand. Your hand's very locked into it, but I would like just a little bit more in the hand for my own personal preference around the bottom there. It has a Monte Carlo styled stock on it, which is needed, of course, because of the raised rib. You need to be able to move your head up. And an adjustable comb, yes, it might help a bit, but it needs more than that, so they put a Monte Carlo stock on it. The jury's still out for me on that. I haven't shot it enough or shot a Monte Carlo stock enough to really know whether I like that or not. However, I do like the fact that it has an adjustable comb on it just to fine tune it. And further on the adjustability side of things, it also has an adjustable butt plate on it, which has two cams in there. You can move it up and down, left and right, as well as tilt it back and forth, which fits this whole gun. You know, it's very much adjustable from the front to the back. So if you're somebody who likes to fiddle, you have a lot of options with this one. Now, the shooting experience with this gun, obviously with the raised comb and the Monte Carlo stock, you do have a much more upright head position. The advantage of that, you can see better, obviously. Your head's up, you can look around. It's easier for you to acquire targets without having to lift your head off the gun, which if you guys have watched me shoot, you'll notice that I do typically drop the gun out of my shoulder or lift my head off the comb. I do that for visibility reasons. I like being able to see a target really well without the barrels being in the way as much, and then sort of zooming in on it as I go to shoot. Just kind of as my timing and pacing. But I think with this, I might not do that as much. I think it'd be something where you can keep your face on the comb, and the advantage of that obviously is every time that you take your face away from the comb or drop the gun out of your shoulder and have to remount it, it is an opportunity for there to be a mistake. Where if you can keep your face on the comb, you know, you're more locked in, you might actually have more luck or more consistency with follow-up targets. This gun does really handle quite differently to anything else I've shot. It has a fair bit of heft to it. It's not a light gun by any means. I think it's right around the 9-pound mark. But the way it's balanced, and I alluded to this a little earlier, the weight is very spread out through the gun. You have the action that basically starts up here and ends back there. So it has quite a very long action, and of course the way the barrels are manufactured in the stock and all the weight, it does contribute to a very smooth swinging gun. But I'm somebody who has a bit of a finesse element to the way that they shoot, so it is something that I would have to get used to. But if you're somebody who I think struggles with being very smooth, this will definitely smooth you out. Now, for that reason, I don't know if I would do the 30 or the 32 option. This is a 30-inch, which my instinct would tell me to go with the 30 over the 32 just because it has just a little bit less weight out the end, but that's me speaking out of turn in the sense I haven't shot a 32, so I couldn't really tell you. Now, this particular Pro Sporter is actually for sale, and it does come with some pretty cool options. One of them being the fact that you have a full set of Briley tubes with it, which enable you to shoot sub-gauge classes. They're really easy to use. You basically just tap them in, and depending on the size, you can shoot 20, 28, or 410, all with this exact setup, which just adds to the whole theme of this gun being versatile and a multi-discipline. Then you can also shoot multi-classes with the same gun, which I think just, again, fits this gun very well. It does also come with what can only be described as a bomb-proof case. It's America Case is the company that makes it. It's very well made and very sturdy, which I think, again, suits this gun very well. We have a gun that's meant to put in some reps. It needs to have a case that's meant to do that as well. If you guys are interested in learning more about this gun, Jan Kulhe was kind enough to lend it to me for this review. So if you're interested in it, reach out to him. I'm going to put his contact down in the description down below. But that is all the action we have for today. So I do appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you have not liked and subscribed, please do so now. It does really help the channel out. And leave a comment. Any thoughts, comments, ideas for future videos? I would love to hear from you guys. But until the next video, stay triggered.